And we are live. What up, players? Welcome to episode 185 of Player Life. It is Wednesday, the 13th of October here in Tokyo, Japan. What is good? What is up? Today, I'm going to talk about how men are becoming weaker all around the world. Uh, you know, specific pretty much everywhere, but specifically in Western countries, definitely in Japan too. Man, like Japanese men are becoming super feminine, super weak. It's pretty crazy. Uh, Bake Bakes Online says, Mac Daddy, what's up, bro? Welcome to the stream. Um, yeah, I just saw this interesting video that and it made me want to talk about how men are becoming so weak in Western societies. Um, Not only Western societies, like I said, but also in Japan. Gabriel E in the house, what's up, bro? What is good? Um, yeah, I was sometimes like in Japan, it's kind of a cultural thing where they have hot springs, and there's actually one pretty close to my where I live. Like it's a natural hot spring. And it's just good to go there and like relax. It's good if you have like some injuries or whatever. It's the natural water. It helps heal you up. But yeah, I mean, it takes some getting used to, obviously, because if you've never been there, you have to be naked. Like you can't wear a bathing suit or anything. But yeah, I mean, I don't give a fuck. I've gotten used to it. I really don't give a fuck. I just go in, you know, and get my own space or whatever. But yeah, you can't help but notice how feminized some of the well, not some of, but it's pretty much all of the younger generation are like the younger generation of guys my age or whatever. Um, obviously I don't be looking at these guys or whatever, but you can't help but see them. It's like it's a public space or whatever. So you see these guys in the hot spring or whatever, and they're just like super feminized. Even like their hairstyle and everything about them. Most of them don't have any muscle mass. Just kind of a lot of them are very skinny, very weak looking. Not much like very feminine bodies. It's like god damn, it's kind of strange. Just doughy. You don't see a lot of like obese people here, but just very yeah, not much hair on their bodies. It's kind of strange, but it's just last night. I mean, I went to one and I was just like getting changed, and I saw this like I guess the guys were around my age or whatever. But they're in the locker room and they're all putting on face masks and shit, like skincare and yeah, taking like those face masks that girls wear, like they're fucking whatever cucumbers on the eyes kind of thing. They were doing this in like a public in the locker room, and I was like, you know, I mean, I'm not one of the guys should take care of their skin or whatever, do what you got to do, but you know, if I was gonna do something like that, I'd do it at home or I just thought it was so girly, it was so feminine. They looked like such girls doing it. Um, you know, like I said, I'm not knocking guys that want to, guys should take care of their health, take care of their skin. That's fine. But if I was going to do that, like I said, I would do it at home, even though I don't do that. I don't wear a face mask. But like, if you're going to do it, I'm not going to do it out in public kind of thing. But yeah, it just struck me as being very, yeah, a lot of Japanese guys my age and younger, super feminized, like compared to the older generation. Let's see. Bakes Online says, Mac, would love to your wisdom on getting over cold approach. I've done 50 approaches this year. That might not be a lot, to people, but it is to me. Most sex I've ever had, but still have approach anxiety. Yeah, I mean, it's better. Well, 50 approaches is not that much, but yeah, it's probably more than most people have ever done or ever will do. So it's good. But yeah, I mean, you just need to keep doing cold approaches. I mean, if you're really interested in learning approach, how to approach girls and find details on it. I've talked about it a lot on my live streams before, but if you want to like really get good at doing day game, consider joining my subscription service. Put the link in the chat. It's pretty cheap. It's only $100 per month. You can unsubscribe anytime, but basically includes access to a private blog where I write about doing cold approach, all the success stories I have, access to a private Telegram group where we discuss cold approach, we discuss everything to do with day game, and a monthly webinar on day game. So like, it'll cover everything to do with like day game and game in general and just getting laid. So yeah, consider that. Know Your Worth is in that chat. Yo, what's up, Mac? Been a minute since I could catch a live stream. Well, good to have you here, bro. Good to have you indeed. Hope your trip to Spain went well. Yes, so yeah, just men in general are becoming super feminized, like, and it seems to be a worldwide phenomenon, not just in Western countries, but yeah, maybe the gypsies in Ireland are the only community that are not becoming super feminized. I saw this bare knuckle gypsy fight that lasted like 40 minutes. I say in Ireland, like they saw like the gypsy or traveler community. They call gypsies travelers in Ireland, but they solve disputes over through bare knuckle boxing, and they just fight. There's no rounds or anything. They don't do rounds. It's like they fight until there's like a winner or loser, and usually they have these kind of referees that kind of are the referees. But let me just share. Yes, so I saw this earlier. They basically, I'm not going to show the whole thing. Obviously, it lasts like 40 minutes. But look at his face. Look at how much hair is on his body. There's no shortage of testosterone in this guy. It's kind of like the Tyson Fury. Like Tyson Fury is this kind of, he's also a traveler, and he's like, you look at Tyson Fury and it's like not aesthetic at all, but he certainly knows how to fight. Look at his face. Getting smashed for 40 minutes. Yeah. This lad here definitely has no shortage of testosterone. They are off the grid. They are living off the grid.
Listen, our name is Michael. I go from 5 to 6 minutes for a good old mate. Me and Dixie stand your own for life. I hope we're the same that we can drink again.
Jesus. It's a pretty bust up face, if you ask me. But yeah, no, I just saw that earlier. I was like, damn, these fucking they're not suffering from any lack of masculinity. But Noe Word says bare knuckle can destroy someone's face. That it can. That it can definitely bust up a man's face. And then on the other side, here in Japan, let me share.
Smooth like butter, like a criminal undercover. Don't pop like trouble, breaking into your heart like that. Cool shade stunner, yeah, owe it all to my mother. High like summer, yeah, I'm making you sweat like that.
Compare these men to the guy I just showed you, like bare knuckle fighting. They're like completely different. Like these guys are like literally like girls compared to the like Irish travelers. But you know, it is what it is. Yeah, I just want to share the video, the actual scientific study that shows how men are becoming infertile on a global scale. Mm.
So I got interested in the question of declining sperm count way back in the mid 90s. And a group of us were on a committee, we're trying to figure out those chemicals that had been called endocrine disrupting chemicals, chemicals that alter your body's hormones. The committee was asking, well, are they really bad for human health? That was our charge, to figure that out. And so the committee said to me, there's this paper that just came out a few years ago, and it says that sperm count has declined dramatically over the past 50 years. Do you think we should pay attention to this? And I looked at the paper and I was skeptical. I thought, that's pretty extreme and doesn't seem to be a lot of data here, and probably not. But it was important enough that I decided I would spend a bunch of time figuring it out. And so what I did was I got the 61 studies that had gone into that analysis, and I looked at each of them and thought of things like, well, maybe the method of counting sperm had changed over time. You can see how that would lead to a lower count. Perhaps if the way you counted just counted fewer sperm, that could cause a trend. Not a real one, but an apparent trend. Or maybe the men in more recent years just had poor sperm count because they came from different populations. Maybe they were men coming in for problems in a fertility clinic. Maybe the men were fatter. Maybe they were smoking more. Maybe whatever. So I went back and I looked at all those things and tried to put them in the model and see if they accounted for the trend. And the surprising thing was that after I spent 6 months on this analysis, by the way, nothing changed, not to the first decimal place. It was astounding. I seldom have seen such a stable result. The decline was very significant. It was a straight line. It was very concerning. So at that point, I said, well, there seems to be something going on here. Let me look into this further. And then I spent the next 20 years doing that. And I published a series of papers which actually strengthened at each step that result. And finally, in 2017, I published a study with colleagues. 7 of us published the study that said that there had been a 59% drop in total number of sperm in a sample between 1973 and 2011, 39 years. I call this the 1% effect. The 1% effect is a change of 1% per year over a lot of years. So if sperm count declined 50% in 50 years, that would be 1% per year. A 50%, that was about what we saw. We saw actually a little worse than that, but a 50% decline means cutting it in.
This is a very accurate representation of the average guy in Western countries. I mean, I'm sure everyone watching this knows multiple guys that resemble, someone like this. If you go on Facebook and look back at your old high school friends or whatever, I'm sure a bunch of them possibly look like this guy. And if not them, you could just go outside, go out wherever you live in any Western country, you're going to see guys that look like this on the right, like hunched over, bad posture, like just terrible fashion, like bad teeth, like bad hygiene, just unhealthy. This, yeah, what do you call it? The way this kind of just weak stance. You know, it's funny actually. You see a lot of girls actually walking like this. When they have their feet pointed inward, it just looks so pathetically weak. Um, I actually hate I hate even when girls do this. I hate when girls walk like that. It looks so weak. It looks terrible. It looks just like it's just bad posture. It's just not healthy. Um, uh, Pepsa Stamna says, "Isn't it tied more to what you do over food though? Gypsies tend to eat the worst foods but stick to manual labor." I think with gypsies, it's more genetic. To be honest, they do eat terrible food. They eat really bad food. I mean, in Ireland anyway. I mean, I've grown up around, seeing gypsies, travelers. They tend to eat fast food. Like they tend to eat fast food and drink heavily and fight, but they're still very, very masculine. It's because they're genetically Irish gypsies actually are genetically different, and because they basically they basically intermarry in a much smaller population. They don't mix. So yeah, but it's just yeah. In general, there's a lot of problems in gypsy communities, but they're still very masculine. Um, and Know Your Word says, so true. They're pot smoking, Cheeto eating slobs. Yeah, a lot of guys, not not travelers, but yeah, your average Western guy. Um, um, yeah. No, Your Word says pigeon toed. Yeah, I can't stand it. You see a lot of Japanese girls pigeon toed. They inward. It's just this really weak. It's one trait that I don't like seeing it. I have a lot of good things to say about how feminine and hot Japanese girls are, but it's one thing I don't like about. Not all of them do it. It's a real turn off when I see girls kind of walking pigeon toed. I've asked, like, you see quite a lot of them do it, and I've asked, like, why are they doing that? And some people some people have told me it's they want to do it because they intentionally do it because it looks feminine and weak. To me, it doesn't necessarily look that feminine. It just looks bad. It just looks bad posture. It just looks unattractive. Um, Marcel Mack in the house. What's up? What is good? So yeah, let's continue.
In half. Cut your sperm count in half. I don't think anyone wants to do that, right? It's the same thing with testosterone. It's also been going down at that same rate, 1% per year. Miscarriage or pregnancy loss has gone up in women at that same rate, and so on and so forth. We don't have good, solid data on all of these. We have much more limited timeframes for these other things because there are many more studies on sperm count than there is on testosterone, for example, trends. But where we can look at it, everything seems to be progressing at about the same rate of deterioration, if you will, of reproductive function. So wherever you look at it, it's not just men and it's not just women. And by the way, it's not just humans, because there are many, many species that have had their genitals disturbed significantly by the same things that are affecting us, and we can talk about what those are. And they've also had their litter size decreased, and their basically your species endangered by their declining fertility and reproductive function. So the data overall is showing us for the world as a whole, back in 1960, an average couple had 5 children. That's the whole world. Now they have a little less than half that, 2.4 children. That doesn't sound too bad. It's still.
This is this is a good representation of reality. Like back in the 60s, like, big healthy family, bunch of kids, lots of activities, playing lots of sports, out and about in sunshine, kids out playing in nature rather than online playing video games and looking at smartphones. And today's modern, beer bug kind of, just weak, work from home family, kind of like, just the kids like spending like hours upon hours on screens, like never getting outdoors, very unhealthy parents. Just it's a good representation, just like worn out. It's funny, like, remember everyone was making those those excuses for the bear bug. They were saying, oh, I gained all this weight because couldn't go outside and all this fucking bullshit excuses. Like, you can work out if you want, you can work out easily from home. Like, there's no excuse. Dan in Tokyo says cuckety cucks indeed.
Over replacement. But when you dive into specific countries like the US, like Asian countries, you see the situation is a lot worse. And surprisingly, Mark, everybody is declining. All countries are declining. In fact, the countries you think, well, they're not declining, like East African countries, they're actually declining at a sharper rate because they're starting at a higher point, right? So you have this overall decline in fertility. And normally the shape of the population in terms of age is a pyramid. So very few on top, a lot on the bottom, a lot in the middle, and the middle supports the top and the bottom, right? But what's happening now, and you can see that in the pyramid in Asian countries, is that the bottom is shrinking pretty dramatically. There's a bulge in the middle, and the top is growing hugely because people have longer lifespans. So longer lifespans is a great thing. I prove that the bottom is shrinking.
Yeah, this is the one on the right here. Big issue in Japan because people are not having kids. It's kind of for different reasons than in Western countries. It's more, I'm not exactly sure, but it's not like a lot of Japanese women do want to have kids. It's not that it's like women are, it's almost like they just can't, for more like economic, because they have to work as well and all these time catches up and they miss the boat. Like, you ask your average Japanese girl, does she want to have kids? She'll like most likely, like, think 9 out of 10 times she's going to say yes. But they're just getting screwed. Like, honestly, women are the biggest losers from all this equality bullshit. Like, they're the biggest losers. Dan in Tokyo says, I think it's more expensive to have a kid. Yeah, it's also expensive here. I think the average wage in Japan is like probably around 30. I don't know. I actually don't know. If I think someone said it's around 4 million yen, which is around $35,000, which that's fuck all. Like, the average wage in Japan, someone in the chat might know it, but maybe you can search it easily. But I think it's around 4 million yen, which is 4 million yen, which is around 35, maybe even less than $35,000. So having a kid on that is not going to be easy. Like, Japan is an affordable country. Like, you can live like pretty fucking, you can live fine. Like, even in Tokyo, like, you if you live smartly, you can live on fuck all, really, to be honest. But Dan in Tokyo said it's like 2,000 yen. That's yen, obviously. 200,000 yen a month, which is maybe about $1,800. Do the math on that. Yeah, the average wage is it's fuck all here, to be honest. and the cost of living can be pretty cheap here, but or it can be very high. But yeah, I mean, having a kid here is going to be expensive. So yeah, the elderly, Japan has the most centenarians in the world. So the aging population is getting pretty wild here because they're living till very old age, and they're not having enough money and workers to support them. It's like it's almost getting out of hand actually. There's like too many old people in Japan, and it's quite noticeable actually, even in Tokyo. Like if I go out on a weekday, like a weekday when everyone else is working, and you go to do some shopping, like you go to a supermarket or something, it's gonna be fucking flooded with old people. It's fucking weird. It's kind of strange. It's like there's like old people everywhere, and old people are fine, but it's kind of annoying sometimes when you're like trying to, old people when they're paying at the counter and stuff, and they're taking out the fucking pennies and shit. It's just kind of annoying, but no, it's just you will notice it in Japan. You'll notice a lot of old people because old people like to go out, because everyone else is working during the weekday, and yeah, but it is what it is.
Pretty dramatically. There's a bulge in the middle, and the top is growing hugely because people have longer lifespans. So longer lifespans is a great thing. I approve of that, of course. But in terms of support, they're not going to have the money for Social Security. That's already a threat in this country. They're not going to have the money for Medicare. They're not going to have the resources to support this older population in terms of, medical treatment. And you're not going to have the labor force necessary to drive the economy. It's that middle sector that drives the economy. And it's going to have huge economic implications. And many economists are looking at that now. It doesn't look good. Yeah, what is causing this is really so complicated. I think the first thing to say is that if we look at what can be a cause of a trend overall, whether it's a cause in obesity or a cause in autism spectrum disorder, the first thing you might ask is genetics. And so if we look at this decline in sperm count and fertility, it's too rapid to be evolutionary. It's happened.
This is an interesting chart, drawing illustration. Yeah, evolution of man. Like I said, you'll see a lot of people. You'll see a lot of salary men in Japan that look like the last guy here, hunched over, working too long, like spending too many hours at the office, like just kind of looking kind of miserable. They might not be obese, but they look just worn out. They look like rinsed. They look rinsed out. Yeah. The one thing about Japan, even though there's an extreme kind of feminization of people here, there's you rarely see very obese people. Dan in Tokyo says robots. Yeah, you'll see a lot of robotic behavior going on here. Drones.
In two generations. 50% decline, that's not going to be genetic. Okay, so let's just put that aside. Okay, not genetic. All right, so what are you left with? Well, causes are broadly classified into genes and environment. Okay, so now we're on the environment side. Okay, so now what makes up environmental causes? Well, I subdivide them into lifestyle, and that's very broad, and I'll say a little more about that, and then chemical. Okay, so there are other things perhaps, but let's just talk about those. So lifestyle is pretty easy to understand. If a man or woman is obese, they're going to have more trouble getting pregnant. Obesity is related to lower sperm count. Smoking.
And here we have the Walmart golem sitting here, still wanting, she's probably like, 30, 35, still thinking she deserves a high quality man. She's not going to settle for a guy unless he's 6 foot tall, 6-figure income. Insane delusion. And I'm not going to lie, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Men are to blame as well for this kind of delusion. Men are to blame for setting women up for this kind of delusion and supporting this kind of delusion. Simpery is what is causing women to let themselves go so badly and feel so entitled. And it's really not going to change. There's no solution to it, really. I mean, it's like it's all hypothetical. Like, oh, if all men stop simping, they might change. That's never going to happen. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, it's just not. So things aren't really going to change anytime soon. It's just going to have to. It'll be drawn out over maybe decades. These kind of things don't change like that quickly. It's like these things take kind of like decades to turn around. And right now the West is in like what's like a decline that could last like decades. Like it could last like years and years. Like it's a kind of a generational thing. Before it might, it might take like, who knows, it might take 100 years for things to turn around, if things even do turn around. You know what I mean? Like, who knows? I'm not trying to dump out like black pills here or anything, but like, it's good to be, you have to be realistic. You have to be honest. Have to be honest. Dan in Turkey says, I don't need no man, boss babe. Yeah. Like, or, I'm not going to settle. I'm not going to settle. Ted says, communism will work before males stop simping. Indeed.
If a man smokes, his sperm count is going to be reduced. If, by the way, his mother smoked when she was pregnant with him, his sperm count is going to be reduced. So smoking is playing a role. Large amounts of alcohol in a small time called binge drinking is also associated with lower sperm count. Stress, surprisingly perhaps, is also associated with lower sperm.
I remember I was around 20 years old, and there's this dude. I was kind of a friend of a friend. He was about 6 years older. We'd hang out, kind of same kind of friend group. But I remember I was chilling, and I used to go to chill in his house sometimes. And I remember him telling me, I was in college at the time, and we started talking, as you do, a bunch of guys, we start talking about chicks. And he was like, I guess he was 26 at the time. I was 20, so he was about 6 years older than me. And this guy used to drink heavily and smoke like a lot of weed. And he was like telling me, I can't remember what he said, but I can't remember how it came up. But he said basically, when you get to my age, he was speaking like an old man, but he was fucking 26 years old. And he was saying, when you get to my age, like once I'll be happy with banging a girl once every 2 weeks, you'll realize that when you're my age at 26. And I was like, I was 20 at the time. I was like, Jesus Christ. I mean, God damn. Like, but this idiot was drinking and smoking weed like every day. Like, it's nothing to do with being 26. If your sex drive is slowing down at 26, there's something wrong with you, and it's most likely that it's because you have a shitty lifestyle. Like, my God, even if you're 26, you shouldn't even weed and drugs shouldn't slow your sex drive down. But no, seriously, that was the reason. That was obviously the reason why, like, once every 2 weeks, fucking low T, like a lot of it's self-inflicted, self-inflicted. I mean, I mean, when I was in college, I recognized like there's been tons of studies that showed like weed like lowers your testosterone. It lowers your sex drive. It's not like, and if you're thinking, oh, it's just because you're getting older, you're an idiot. It's what you're doing to your body.
Count, lower fertility, and so on. So all of these come under the, in the bag of lifestyle factors, something we have some control over, right? Then over here are the chemicals, and those are things that we may or may not have control over. And the class of chemicals that I'm most worried about are the ones that affect our body's hormones. And the reason is that reproductive function, sperm production, pregnancy, and so on are controlled by the hormones, right? Everybody kind of knows that. You know, your testosterone you're going to worry about, your estrogen. If you're a woman, you know what your cycle is, that your hormones go up and down. Everyone knows that, right? So all of that function is controlled.
Speaking of estrogen, I think I'm pretty sure that drinking beer increases the amount of estrogen in your body as a female hormone. I'm I'm pretty damn sure it definitely increases some hormone that is more feminine, and it's just I've seen it. I even before I heard that, before I read it, I've always thought it. Beer, like, it's the biggest myth ever that drinking beer is some kind of masculine thing to do. Um, because it makes men more emotional. It makes men like. I've behaved like an idiot in the past when I used to drink, like too many times to count. Behaving emotional, getting unnecessarily emotional, like embarrassingly emotional. It just all these kind of negative things, um and there's this propaganda that's spread out by the alcohol industry that it's this masculine thing, drinking beer, when it's like the complete opposite. It actually feminizes men. It makes them fat, like doughy, like weaker, sloppy. Like, I mean, I'm not pretty much off alcohol. Like, I don't drink. So, but if I was gonna drink, I'd probably drink like spirits, or like whiskey neat or something. But because beer is like garbage, like it's piss, man. Like, if you want to drink a beer, I'm not like here to like tell people to, I'm not trying to crap on people that like to have a beer every now and then, but but honestly, it's piss. Like, beer is fucking garbage. If you're gonna drink drink some spirits. That's what I'd say.
By the body's hormones. Now, if you mess that up, you can imagine that you're messing up the end product, right? The sperm, the eggs, the pregnancy. And that's what happens. Okay. And so you might ask, well, what can do that? What can mess with that? And that is a huge class of chemicals, which are called endocrine, meaning hormone, disrupting, messing up chemicals, or EDCs. I like to call them hormone hackers because they sometimes pretend to be hormones. They get in there, they hack the hormone system, they mess with it. And turns out that they're in our daily lives in huge numbers. So that's what I study mostly. So it turns out that after conception, in utero is the most sensitive time for the development of almost everything. Some things develop later, the brain is later, the brain continues to develop after birth and so on. Body size develops later, but the building blocks of what's going to be your reproductive system are really laid down early in the first trimester. So that's a very sensitive period. And so what the fetus is exposed to, which really means what the mother is exposed to, because, there's no sort of barrier. There's no barrier protecting that fetus from what the mother's exposed to. It gets into her bloodstream, goes into the fetus, goes in, and it does its damage in the fetus. Okay, so anything that
I just want to say, like, I think women have been sold the biggest lie, and at the end of the day, women are the biggest losers out of all of this, because women have to do both now. They have to be a woman and be a man and behave like a man at the same time, which is just a shit deal. Like, women are not made to do both. They're not made to behave like men and go out there and be a boss bitch and work and all that shit, because they're ultimately made to give birth. They're designed evolutionarily speaking. They're designed to raise a family and have children. That's going to be the biggest moment, the biggest thing they ever do in their lives. Like, it's a pretty big deal, like, bringing a human into the world. And now they're being told that they can do that later in life, and it's a fucking lie. It's a fucking lie because like like I'm 33 and I'm not gonna lie, like I lived a pretty fucking active, like, I was an active kid. Like I was pretty wild. Like in my teenage years, like I was just an outdoors kid. So I feel like I'm 33. I feel kind of banged up and like I have different injuries and shit. But just like when I put myself thinking like, holy shit, like can you imagine like if I was a woman, like imagine trying to have a kid like at like 35. That shit's like that takes its toll. That's like a really arduous, difficult thing that you have to do, like give birth to a child. Like it's not an easy thing. It's not natural. Like honestly, like it's only in recent times that women have been waiting this long to have their first child. It's like completely like out of the ordinary. It's not normal at all. Like in the past, women would have been having kids at like 15. Like honestly, that possibly even younger. It's like it's just different times. Like it's like I think women are at their most fertile when they're 18 or 19. Like they're most ready to have a child. This all this shit about having kids at like 35 is having their first child at 35 is completely like it's not normal. Like it's really not. And it's actually called a geriatric pregnancy when it's that old. But now women are, oh yeah, I'm a boss bitch, I can have a kid at that age. And it's like, fuck, you're gonna have a tough time delivering. Like that is gonna wreck your body. And I actually see it in Japan too. Like I see women that have kids older, and it wrecks them. It wrecks them badly, man. It really wrecks them. Like you can see it. You can see a woman, and like I've actually seen it. Like I've seen women before and after. I've been in Japan over 6 years, so I've seen quite a lot. Like I've had a lot of experience here, but I've seen women that have you know before they got pregnant and after, like older, like in their 30s. And man, it puts like 10 years on these women. Like they come out of the pregnancy, they've like gray hairs, and there's like their skin is like that doesn't have that glow to it. Like like they just look kind of like they've gotten beaten up a little bit, because it's like it kind of drains that, like it kind of drains from them. And women find it very hard to bounce. The older a woman gets, it's harder for her to bounce back from that, because it's like the child. It's like they're putting the life force in. They're draining the nutrients from her body, and it's going into the child, right? So it's a heavy, fucking arduous thing. And like women are getting so ripped off, like because they're having to work these shitty office jobs. They're calling their careers. They're fucking minimum wage shite. Like fucking less than, like I said, the average pay in Japan is like about $1,800 per month. Shite pay, like shite. And the women are calling this like their careers. Same in Western countries. Shite, like, they're not making dough. They're just working these fucking shite office jobs that are paying them fuck all. And they're just like, this is liberating. This is their freedom. And they're getting ripped off. And a lot of them will never even have, a lot of them will be lucky to even be able to give birth to a child at 35, because most of them will actually never experience it. Most of them will miss the boat, actually. Most of them will actually never, and they'll die. They'll have a seriously lonely, soul crushingly lonely experience of an existence. Because for men, we can live, we can get by, we can go on. Men can live their lives alone. It's not, we don't, like, we can go without having children. It can be like, and it won't be so soul crushing. But for women, that's what they're made to do. That's what that's why they're here. That's why they're on planet Earth, to like, give birth. In the past, it was seen as like a tragedy. Like there was some genetic, you know, um, abnormality if she wasn't able to, if she was infertile. It was like a tragic thing. Now women are choosing it, and it's like, yeah, good luck to you. It's gonna be a long life. It's gonna be a long, lonely life for you. Um,
The mother is exposed to that's going to change her hormones or the fetus's hormones are going to be concerning if you're worrying about reproductive function. And let's dive in now. Just try to dive into the into the fetus and look there at the developing genital tract. It's a hard thing to think about. It's very, microscopic. But there's this genital tract, which initially is the same in males and females, genetic males, genetic females. It's identical. It's just a single ridge. Then at a certain critical time, which we know exactly in the rat and less precisely in the human, but it's going to be early in the first trimester, the fetal testes starts making testosterone. This is a very, very important event for everything that's going to follow in the story. So this undifferentiated genital tract, if it's a genetic male, gets the testosterone and starts, if you will, waking up, starts becoming a genetically typical male. Okay, so the testicles start developing and so on and so forth. All the parts start developing. What happens if there isn't enough testosterone? Well, that process just doesn't get completed. Or if maybe the testosterone is too late, it won't get completed. So what that means is that it's going to be the default, which is female. This is a hard thing to imagine, that the female is the default, but that seems to be what it is. And so if the male does not see enough testosterone at the right time, his journey to the genetically typical male genitals is not complete. And I like to say he's incompletely masculinized. Okay. Well, I should just first tell you that this was discovered in rats first. By the way, I want to put a plug in here for rodent experiments, which are invaluable in learning about human health. We can't do it without that. So I had heard from a friend on an airplane flying to Japan. He said, Shauna, you should look at phthalates. I said, why should I look at phthalates? And he said, well, I'm a chemist. I'm at CDC. We've been measuring these. They're in everybody, including pregnant women, everybody. And in the arm of the government that tests for chemical toxicity, they've shown that they disrupt the reproductive development of the male. In fact, they cause something called the phthalate syndrome. So my ears perked up because, there's not very many syndromes that are assigned at birth. There's fetal alcohol and there's the phthalate syndrome. So that made it sound really important. So I asked him what that was. And he told me that when a rat has been developing, gestating within a mother rat who's been fed phthalates at the right time, then his genitals are all smaller. They're all smaller and less developed. So his testicles might not be fully descended, and the penis might be smaller, and the whole size of the area is smaller. Well, it turns out in all mammals, the genital size is 50 to 100% smaller in females than males. That's just how it is. Some exceptions, but almost all mammals. Okay, a particularly important.
So Western men it's kind of the masculinity in the world, particularly in the West. It's like a candle that's been burnt at both ends. So genetically, it seems like it's something deeper than just a cultural thing. It seems like actually physically, like biologically, men are becoming more feminine, and culturally. So it's like men are becoming incredibly, like, being attacked on all ends. Like it's just being fucking feminized, biologically and culturally. So it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all.
Important measure is something called the anogenital distance. It's just, I don't know if you know what the taint is, the gooch, the grundle, those are street terms for this distance. That's the distance from the anus to the genitals, basically. You can measure it. We measured it in our study. They measured it in the rat study. So I heard about this rat study and I thought, that's funny. I wonder if we'll see that in humans. And so I designed a study to look at that. It was the first study to do that. So it turned out was kind of important. So we had urine stored from pregnant women, and we sent them to CDC, and we had CDC measure what's called the phthalate metabolites. Phthalates, which are chemicals that lower testosterone, pass through the body really quickly, enter the urine, they're water soluble, and you can measure them. So we did that for about 800 women, had the CDC measure their phthalates. And then we said, okay, let's get the kids in and measure their genitals. Seems like a simple project, right? Turned out it was fairly complicated to do. It was hard sometimes to find the kids and bring them in and all that, but we did that and we found the phthalate syndrome in humans. So let me just reiterate. We found that when the mother had higher levels of certain phthalates, those that lower testosterone, in her early urine samples, that her male child would have genitals that were less completely masculinized. I hope that sounds dramatic because I think it really is important.
That's actually pretty fucked up. That's pretty fucked up because, like, you know, I kind of thought it was more of a cultural, like, it is undoubtedly a cultural thing. You know, we say, you know, men are made, women just are. So, like, obviously, men are being attacked, masculinity is being attacked culturally in Western society. But now to learn that, you know, it's also a biological thing. It's like, you know, men are becoming more feminized, like they're fucked, like their dicks are getting smaller and shit. Pretty wild, pretty wild revelation. It's not surprising though, because just look around, and like, it's pretty damn noticeable in Japan too, to be honest. I mean, like I was saying earlier, I mean, you see some seriously feminine looking Japanese guys like my age, and you know, certainly around my age and younger, like there's some seriously feminine guys, and kind of thought maybe it was cultural, but obviously now I'm starting to, you know, it's obviously a biological factor as well. They actually are more feminine, like physically, like not just like because of their lifestyle or any of this, or like actually like they're more female like. They don't have fully developed genitalia. Jesus Christ, fully developed masculine genitalia. It's like, um,
And because we had to replicate this as you do with science, we wrote another grant, got another big study, we got another set of pregnant women, got their urine, got their babies, replicated it, and found the same result. So now it's pretty well established that this is going on. There's two kickers here. One is these children from our second study are now only 10 years old. We don't know how they're going to perform, you know, in terms of fertility and function later on. The first study, the kids are actually in their 20s, but they're really spread out around the country. And we're going to try to get them in and get their sperm count, but we don't know if we'll be able to do that. However, in the rat, we know that if the rat is born with a small anogenital distance, then when he grows up, he will still have, for his body size, a small anogenital distance. It's like, I have very small hands. I've always had small hands. I'm a small person, you know what I mean? But the portions of your body tend to grow with you. So you could ask, okay, an adult man who has a short anogenital distance, what's his sperm count like? In other words, does the shortness of the anogenital distance matter for his later function? You see, if it doesn't, it sort of doesn't matter. Well, it turns out it matters for a lot of things. It matters for genital birth defects. He's more likely to have undescended testicles if he has a short AGD. He's more likely to have certain defects of the penis, one called hypospadias. He's more likely to develop testicular cancer when he's a young man. And he's more likely to have a low sperm count and to be.
it's kind of interesting. Like, I mean, like, it's very, if you look at all those like Antifa guys, like they're all fucking malnourished and There's a guy. What's his name? There's a guy on Twitter. I think his name Andy GNO or something. Andy Gno or something. But he used to post these all these great like mugshots of anti-fat men, and they're so like some of them are like deformed and they're all like weird looking and they're all feminized and just almost like mutants, man, to be honest. Like they're like mutants. And it's like, is this, is this what is happening? Men are just becoming kind of, you know, defected, defected males, not fully masculine. Andy NGO, Andy NGO, yeah. See if I can pull up one of his like, you know, kind of his mugshot. Don't know if I can find it, but he used to post. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'll find it. All right. Let me just share this one. Yeah. So this guy Andy, he would pull up these mugshots of anti-fat guys, and they're all deformed and weird looking. Um, look at these guys. Like they're. Do you think these guys have high sperm counts? I doubt it. I really fucking doubt it. Let me. Where is it? Where's it at? Let me share that again. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Do you think these guys have like? You think this guy has a high sperm count? Doubt it. Him definitely doubt it. This guy, no, I doubt it. This guy, doubt it. No, not this guy, doubt it. None of these guys, like, they're all just fucking defects, and they've warped ideas and they're all just weirdos. And there's like millions of these kinds all across Western societies. And it's fucking weird to think that not only is it culturally, but it could be like it's like a genetic thing too. It's like a thing where kids are kind of men are being born with kind of a disadvantage because they're not fully be masculine, and because of who knows why, but um pretty wild.
Fertile. So the bottom line, the arc of this whole 20 years that I've been working on this is that these chemicals, when the mother's exposed to them in early pregnancy, result in failures or limitations of reproductive function in adulthood and are undoubtedly part of the explanation of the decrease in sperm count and fertility. So phthalates are in plastic. They make plastic soft and flexible. So anytime you see a rubber tubing, I just saw a survey of clothing in which they measured phthalates levels in the clothing and found that they were really high in the vinyl raincoats and boots and anything that included vinyl. So any vinyl products, shower curtains, tubing of any kind, you'll see phthalates in there. But also foods that pass through phthalates. So think about a cow. A cow used to be milked by hand, but then they started using milking machines. The milking machines, you've seen them, they have all these tubes, and those tubes contain phthalates. And so when the milk comes from the cow, goes through the tube, goes into the container, it contains phthalates. And a study in Europe showed actually significantly more phthalates in the milk that was collected in that way compared to by hand, right? So we know that any food that passes through phthalate containing tubing will contain this phthalate, and it will go into your body, and it'll go into the fetus, and then the harm is done. So another way we get phthalates is in our cosmetics and our personal care products, because not only do they make plastic soft, but they also help retain scent and color. So any lipstick, nail polish, perfume, scented laundry soap, air fresheners, little tags, that pine cones that you hang in your car, they're all going to have lots of phthalates. And by the way, they also increase absorption. So if you put a cream on your hand, you come back 20 minutes later, the cream's gone, right? It's meant to be absorbed. Phthalates help with that. They also help the pest.
And just think about how much shitty kind of cosmetics, especially women, absorb. Like the women are using way more kind of shitty like cosmetics than men are using. And if they're absorbing all these toxic toxins, and then they give birth, it's probably what's contributing to the defects in the male children, in the males, um, contributing to them being more just like, yeah, I guess defect, more defectful. Um,
Pesticides get absorbed into the plant, so they're put in pesticides for that reason. So they're just all over. It's hard to find things that don't have these chemicals in them. But by the way, I should add that this is only one class of endocrine disrupting chemicals. It's the one that I've spent the most time on because it's particularly important for the hormone testosterone. But another class of chemicals, bisphenol A, the phenols, I should say bisphenols, are kind of the opposite. They make plastic hard, and instead of lowering testosterone, they increase estrogen. So they're kind of the flip side, if you will. And these are all over the place too. They're in the lining of tin cans. They're in tooth sealants. They're in our pizza boxes. They're in our plastic water bottles. They're our baby bottles. So that's another class. And then there's flame retardants. And then there's pesticides. And then there's something called the PFAS chemicals, which are things like Teflon. They're coatings. So Teflon, water repellents, paper coverings that keep oil off, like in your pizza boxes, right? So everywhere you look, and there are hundreds of these that are in our bodies right now. And many of them interact. When you go to the doctor, your doctor is going to give you a prescription. She says to you, what else are you taking? Tell me about all your medications, right? So you tell all, she says, nothing else, and you add a few. And then you tell all your medications. And then she thinks about that and thinks about how they might interact with the medication she's going to prescribe. It's the same thing with these chemicals. They act together, and often the whole is worse than the sum of its parts. Just like you wouldn't, you could take one sleeping pill, you could take another sleeping pill, start adding those up, it's not good. I'm very worried about it, to tell you the truth. I mean, I think we do already satisfy several of the criteria for endangerment, which is a step way before extinction. But we are threatened. We're threatened. And remember, if you're a couple, if you're a guy who's trying to get pregnant, your wife or partner wants to get pregnant, that's a right. That's a basic human right that you should be able to reproduce if you want to. No one's talking about everyone should want to. That's not what I'm saying. But if you want to, you should have that opportunity and that right. And to have that taken away from you from causes that are not within your control is what I'm most concerned about. So I think there's a couple of good news items to the story. One is that a lot of the chemicals that are harming us, and phthalates in particular, leave the body very quickly. 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, they're not sticking around. They're not persistent. We call them non-persistent chemicals. That's true of bisphenol A also. So if we can stop taking them in, we're done with them. And that's, I think, a really good news story. It's not like lead, it's not like dioxin, PCBs, and so on, which do stick around. The other part of the story that's helpful is that Pat Hunt, who's an animal toxicologist in the University of Washington, showed that if you use mice, take a mouse that's been messed up, has poor reproductive function because of chemical exposures, and then you clean up the environment of his offspring and his offspring's offspring, in 3 generations, you can restore reproductive function. That's a great story for a mouse or a rat because their length of life is 2 years. Intergenerational gap is 2 years. For us, it's longer. That would be 75 years. So we're probably looking at a pretty long time to get it totally cleaned up, but we can start in that direction if we would stop re-exposing kids that were exposed in utero.
75 years if things immediately stopped, which there's absolutely no chance in hell that things are going to get cleaned up, or things are, they're going to, humans are going to stop taking in these toxins. Not a chance in hell. It's like an impossibility. Like it's like an impossible thing. It's, in fact, it's going to get worse, like a lot worse. But you could go down the whole rabbit hole, you could about the whole beer bug, and this is just another. You could say that it's being pushed, like they're trying to make humans less fertile. Who knows what this the jab is about? That could be contributing as well to making even humans even less fertile. This 75 years if things stopped like immediately, like this isn't like, this isn't gonna stop anytime soon.
During their childhood and during their adulthood, then we would be on the road to cleaning up our reproductive health. Hi, thanks for watching this episode of After School.
So there you have it. That is it. Men are becoming more culturally more feminine and biologically more feminine. So it is what it is. Spark 55 puts it right when he says the West is headed for a bear market in all those ways. Definitely headed for a bear market, and that is bear market for men in all directions, and women. To be honest, women are getting a raw deal as well, and they don't even realize it though. That's the thing. Well, most men don't realize it as well. But yeah, there's a real thirst amongst women for masculine guys, even though they say they want the beta guys, they want this, that, and the other. But in reality, it's the masculine Chad guys that are getting all the pussy. And all the other guys, 90%, 80, 90%, whatever you want to call it, let's just say the vast majority of guys fighting for scraps, fighting for fucking scraps. Like it's a fucking joke. Like it's an absolute shit show out there. Like even decent guys, like guys above average guys, are actually fighting for scraps as well. If they don't have game, if they're not red pilled about women, if they don't, they don't know how to use social media and all that bullshit. If they don't know about pickup and day game and cold approach, yeah, they're pretty fucked. But if you want to learn about how I do cold approach, how you want to learn day game, which is without doubt the best way to pick up chicks anywhere, any country, unless you're like top tier Chad on a dating app, which most people are not. If you really want to avoid all the bullshit to do with dating apps for a while and mix it up a little bit and figure out day game and cold approach, consider getting on my premium content subscription service. Head over to my website, link in the description. Go to premium content, click on blog and webinar, and click on register. You get access to the blog where I write about my success stories. You get access to my private Telegram group, and you get a monthly webinar, all when you register here. So it's a pretty sweet deal. Definitely, pretty much I teach by by example. Like, I just tell you what I do. It works for me. It works for the guys I teach. It works for, it's, and if guys need to do something, if they need to improve their fashion or anything like that, if there's something they're lacking on, like, I don't hold any punches. I tell people exactly what they need to do. I don't sugarcoat things, because too many guys get everything sugarcoated and they get lied to, and it doesn't. At the end of the day, when people sugarcoat things and tell you, softball you, it's like, it's not really going to help you out at the end of the day. You need to be told the cold hard truth. If you're not able to handle the cold hard truth, then maybe you're not able to handle getting laid a lot. You know what I mean? But yeah, guys, I'm gonna leave it there. But seriously, get on. If you're interested in day game and you're not on this subscription service, and you want to improve, then I can help you out for sure. So get on that link in the description. Put it in the chat. It's not going to break the bank at all. It's only $99 a month. You can unsubscribe anytime. I don't know why you wouldn't do it if you're wanting to get laid. But yeah, I'll be back 10 p.m. Thursday Eastern Standard Time. So until then, have a good one. Peace out. Bye bye.